Happy Saturday, Flosstube. This is Lydia, the TallyStitcher, giving you an update on my progress on my different projects and some exciting stuff that I finish up this week. So this is Flosstube number 2. It's February 6th, 2021. I'm going to do the Know Your Needleworker tag questions today. Um, last floss tube, you saw pretty much all of my works in progress, and I talked a little bit about what I do, my stitching journey, but this will go into any other little details, and then I'll go through my progress I've done for the week and talk to you about future projects. Yeah. So actually the first thing, so after I filmed last weekend, um, I actually participated in a virtual stitch-in with the Sunshine State Stitching Facebook group. So it's got a few ladies. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm petting one of my little kitty cats because she's in a cuddly mood right now. So I got my video going and uploading to YouTube while I was doing this stitch-in. It's my first stitch-in. There's probably 7 or 8 of us on there. I could tell I was the only one who's not kind of retired. I'm also one of the newer stitchers, but everybody was very lovely. We all went around and talked about where we were from, what we were stitching on, and then just the conversation just flowed while we stitched. And I believe the stitch-in was probably blocked for 3 hours. I was there for about 2. Then my husband got home and we had lunch. And yeah, so it was very nice. I think they're trying to do those once a month. I honestly would like to find other virtual stitch-ins that happen even more frequently. Having stuff to do on Saturdays is really nice for me. That's kind of why I'm doing these Flosstube videos on Saturdays, because it just gives me something on the calendar to get up and go, when otherwise I would probably just sleep in really late on Saturdays. So I'll do a couple of these Know Your Needleworker tag questions, and then we'll do some progress updates. So from my name, TallyStitcher, is where I live. It's Tallahassee, which is Florida's capital city. Tallahassee was chosen to be the capital of Florida after the Spanish pretty much sold the territory of Florida to the US for the last time. I'm a historian by trade, so I'll add in little tidbits of knowledge if you didn't know that. So essentially, the English, when they had Florida, they split it into 2. They had like the Panhandle side and then the eastern side. And West Florida had Pensacola, Panama City area as the capital, and then the eastern side had like St. Augustine as the capital. But when the U.S. finally took over the territory in 1824-ish, 1821-ish, one of those, they were like, hey, we want a more central capital. So they put 2 guys on 2 horses and they just did this move. And they ended up in Tallahassee, which is in the northeast side of the Panhandle of Florida. We call this the Big Bend area. Pretend like I have a Florida map here. And so so the guys were tromping around and they found this nice little water feature called the Cascades, and they were like, "Oh, this is great!" And like there used to be, back in the 1500s, there was a Spanish mission here, and they were converting the local population of Appalachee Native Americans. There's also the Miccosukee tribe lives around here, and so there had already been agriculture, and there's a bit of history here. So even when the guys got here, they're like, "Sure, this is great. This is going to be the capital." Our biggest kind of claim to fame, I guess, is that we have several universities: Florida State University, Florida A&M, which is a historic Black college. We've also got some community colleges that are really good and some vocational schools. So there's a lot of higher learning that happens around here, as well as a ton of state government offices because we are the capital. So that's where I live. And I've been here since 2007 when I moved up here for my undergraduate degree, and I've been here ever since. Um, that's just how it is right now. And a lot of my research projects in grad school tended to focus on local history because I like visiting the sites. I like getting into local archives and doing really local history. So that's why I kind of know a lot of little bits of history. And I imagine when we move somewhere else, I'll be the same way and I will dive in and I will learn everything I can. So there's that. Um, Question number 2 is what kind of work do I do? I'm a museum educator. My master's degree is in historic administration and public history. So I've been an archivist. I've been an assistant to a historic resources survey that was funded by a grant. I've volunteered at different museums in town. Um, I essentially acted as curator, designer, and marketing outreach for my own capstone project, as well as like a digital historian. So I like to do everything. I like to know how to do everything. I like to adapt and make things as accessible as possible. So that means I like doing walking tours, but I like making, you know, audio accessibility tours as well, and just thinking about how much of the community we can get in to enjoy their cultural resources. So that's kind of my push in the education field. Um, Number 3, do I have any kids? No, we don't have any kids yet. Um, they're on the plan. They're on the calendar. Um, I kind of added in the follow up question to that is like, do we have any pets? So yes, I have 2 cats, Cora and Giuseppe. I've had Giuseppe since he was about 2 months old. He's currently curled up on his little blanket. His nickname is Butthead because he's a butthead and he likes to climb around, get into things. He's addicted to mint and pepperoni. Even though we don't feed them people food, he just loves the smell of those things. So, if you're chewing gum or if you're cracking into a little pack of pepperoni, which I do because it's a great snack, he's right there. He's also my little stitching buddy, so sometimes he wants more lap time than I can give him because I can't stitch half the time when he's in my lap because he's not really in the lap. He wants to be like right up here. Like, if he could sit on my head, maybe he would. But he's my baby and he's my cuddle bug. Um, Cora, I adopted her when she needed to be rehomed when she was about 4. And she's a long hair. They're both domestic tabbies. She's long hair, he's short hair. And Cora, she came from a home that had a bunch of dogs and other cats. She was very skittish. But when I got her here, she quickly established herself as the head kitty in charge. She demands all the cuddles, but all like you can't hold her. She's not a holdy cat, but you need to pet her. She wants to be right next to you. She's my shadow. She will headbutt Giuseppe and demand grooming from him, but also will run him off of the food bowls so she can eat first. So she's like, the head of the household. And she's my little fluffy baby. And then we'll get to number 5, and then we'll get to some whips. So when did I start stitching? So I think I mentioned this in my first video. I started stitching probably in 2016 on a dimensions kit that is Santa, and his coat has depictions of the 12 days of Christmas. It's huge. It's ambitious. I have not made a lot of progress on it. I think I have an identifiable partridge in a pear tree with maybe 1 pear, and then his coat bits. So actually on the fabric, it kind of looks like Mount Fuji right now because you can't make out anything. And I bring that out now. I've decided I'll bring it back out in July, so you'll see that, and then I'll stitch on it probably starting in November and have that be my Christmas holiday thing that I stitch on if I'm not making holiday Christmas things. That just reminded me to show you guys something. All right, so anyway, so last week I showed you pretty much all my whips, and a fun thing is like I told you that I hadn't stitched on this Buddha kit since last November. And then as I was cleaning up, getting ready to see what I was going to do for the rest of the day, I was like, you know what? I want to stitch on Buddha. I want to get some more in there. So before, you really couldn't see what was going on because all of the colors blend into the background. Um, and I wanted to put in some darker colors or just something more contrast. So I started stitching on him during my stitch in that I did with the Sunshine State stitching group. And look at that. Now you can kind of see what's going on. We're going to play around with the camera colors again just to see. So this is kind of like the left side of Buddha, or yeah, his left side. His little robes are going in there. This is his chest. He doesn't have a head. This is a little magnet that has my husband's and I, when we got married last year, we had a puzzle made, a wooden puzzle that was going to be our guest book. And the designer of that put this in for free, which is so sweet. So it actually works as a needle minder. So that's what that's doing there. But I put in, the biggest thing I put in was all this brown, this dark, dark brown. I put in a lot of it during last Saturday. And then I started working on this row of blended threads of a maroon and dark brown. And I did it, and it's actually really chunky. Even though it's a half stitch, it was 4 strands of maroon and 1 strand of dark brown. And I put it in kind of all the way this, and I was like, I don't love the way that looks compared to how light all this is. And I believe most of this is 2/2. There's some 1/2. And I didn't love it. And so I showed it to my husband, and I was like, why does this look so wrong? And he's like, is that the back? And I was like, no. And he's like, it does look wrong. And I looked at it and I looked at it and I was like, I had done my half stitches going the opposite direction of what all of my overcross stitches were here. So it looked wrong. It looked really chunky and it looked wrong. I didn't like it. So I frogged all of this and decided to only do 3 strands of maroon and 1 strand of dark brown and did it the correct way. Now I'm much happier. And there's a tiny bit of yellow going in here that starts some flowers that branch off. My thought was maybe I could get the branch going on here and then I can work on a huge chunk of color, but we'll see. So I'm happy with the progress that happened with this guy over the beginning of the week. And I'm kind of glad it's back in the whip round. So we'll see how long that gets stitched on. The other piece that got a little bit of work this week was Beside the Still Water, which is a Needle Treasures kit that I got from my local needle workshop. You can't really see the progress on this one. Before I switched it around in the Q-snap a little bit, so it still kind of looks like a crazy baboon. But I added the church steeple starting to come out up here, and that's what I added, as well as got over to this little window, and it's got its inner sill stitched out. So that's kind of what I touched on that. And that's because I switched over to working on my modern folk embroidery stitch along for 2021, because I printed out the stuff and got the pattern home. I think on Tuesday I brought it home because, like I said, Monday nights right now I'm working in a clay class, so I don't stitch a ton on Monday nights. So I was so glad to get back to this piece. I really missed it. We're gonna avoid showing the pattern there. Oops, hang on a second, I got stuff falling off. But and it's really hard to show the colors on this. So all I've done was complete this motif here, and I started getting into the star, or like it'll be a frame for a heart. Mostly worked in the lighter color, got a little bit of the darker color going in, but I really missed stitching on this. I love the colors. The fabric is chocolate raspberry, 16 count Aida, and the floss is DMC. I believe it's 3661 and 3667. Yep, 2/1. So please start doing that. And I probably would have gotten more done on this, except so Sundays are one of our big stitching days, but last Sunday we wouldn't have had the pattern anyway. But last Sunday I was actually out with a friend, so I didn't get hardly any stitching done on Sunday, so I don't see much progress on some of the other stuff, but that's fine. Um, my husband went up to the in-laws, and actually his mom was able to start stitching again on her Teresa Winsler. So I was excited to see that because she was afraid that she couldn't really see well enough to stitch the tiny count fabric. But she said that she was able to start working on the border. And I think so she's working on like English cottage. And she's been working on it for going on 30 years now, with a bit of a break there to raise kids and stuff. And I think the cottage itself is done, and she's working on the alphabet and the border. So she did, a nice straight bit just to see if she could do it, and she felt good about that. So I'll see if she's worked on it more tomorrow when we see them. But she stitched with him for a little bit while they were hanging out while I was out thrift shopping with my friend. Another thing I'll probably talk about. So those are some of the whips. Those are the ones you've seen before. Let's do a couple of these other know your needleworker questions. So number 6, these are questions that I just found by Googling this tag. What hobbies do I have besides stitching? I So after I went through grad school, which in grad school obviously you focus on like something you love. And I love the museum stuff. I love historic architecture. I love doing history. I love writing about history and researching history. I can't say those are hobbies because they are part of my job. But when I got out of grad school, of course, grad school is just a whole thing. It changes who you are as a person. I'm like, I don't even know what my hobbies are. I have no idea. Um, and so I have a lot of craft supplies just always on hand, that I've had forever. My husband and I both like painting. He paints miniatures, but also we've done painting with a twist several times, for different date nights, and for my 30th birthday a bunch of us got together and did one. Let me know if y'all want to see any of those, if you're interested in seeing other crafty things. We also like putting puzzles together, which I've mentioned. But right now we don't have a great space to put puzzles together because we like big ones, and our dining room table is kind of a cluttered mess of collecting things. Also, in 2019, my hobby was planning my wedding. So I don't really know. My hobbies were like, all right, we're going to go do floral arrangements and we're going to go thrifting for things, and we're going to plan this out. And so like I have worksheets or not worksheets, spreadsheets and lists and doodles and all sorts of stuff. So I've been trying to figure out what I'm into. I mentioned Lego last time. We do like Lego. The Lego architecture recently hasn't had anything come out that I love, but I've got Frank Lloyd Wright's Imperial Hotel. I've also got the Guggenheim, and I have the Great Wall of China. I kind of wish I had gotten another section because people will put them together to make a greater wall. But I only got the one. I'm looking at it, so I'm looking over. It's in front of our TV. Um, so yeah, I was like trying to figure out what my stuff is. So I do write, like I mentioned last time. I did a children's book last year. I also started writing a murder mystery in November for National Novel Writing Month, which is a competition that I've tried for years to finish, where you write a 50,000 word novel in a month. I've tried on and off since high school, and this is the farthest I've gotten. I think I got a little over 30,000, 40,000 words for that novel. And then I haven't touched it since November, but I just had some other people get interested in reading it. So I need to get back to writing a bit more. And that was one of my New Year's goals, was to write more on this to finish it. Because I have most of the plot figured out. I have most of the ins and outs figured out. It's just getting it written down. So that's another thing. So I don't, kind of a hobby, kind of not. Sometimes I write poetry, usually when I'm feeling kind of angsty, I write poetry, but I did just submit 4 poems to a poetry contest. So we'll see in April if I qualified for anything. Yeah, so I'm all over the place. I will see something and get hyper fixated on it. So like last year, especially at the beginning of the pandemic, we got into gardening really bad. Like gardening, homesteading, canning, preserving, getting ready for what could have been the end of the world. Who knows? So, did a lot of gardening, and we're going to start doing that again in the spring once it warms up a little bit. Probably the bulk of our gardening will happen at our in-laws in their backyard because we have a big plot now that's all tilled up and planted. There's actually already turnips and broccoli and sugar snap peas coming up. We've had a lot of luck with peppers in the past, all sorts of peppers. Banana peppers, bell peppers, not as much. Dattils, jalapenos galore. So we do that. Um, I've gotten to junk journaling for a couple months, a couple years ago. So I made a junk journal, which is where you kind of take a book, a hardcover book, strip it, add in your pages. I sewed in pages, and then I was like, okay, cool. I made a book. Yeah, so right now cross stitching is the major hobby, and along with that is the designing stuff. So I would say like cross stitching is the thing, but also mentioned the designing part. Um, so another question is, what's my favorite movie? That's hard. I think it's hard for everybody. I used to be a big movie junkie. Like I would be at the movie theaters like once a week. Especially when they had $5 Tuesdays. But I haven't been, obviously, in a long time, and we don't watch a ton of movies together. My husband doesn't really love movies, and we have slightly different tastes. I really like, for some reason, the Darjeeling Limited comes back to my mind, even though I haven't watched it in years. I really like that one. Lucky Number 11 is very fun. Um, we just watched Fargo, which reminded us how good that one is. Um, let's see here. Um, I like a lot of like really obscure movies. There's an animated movie called The Flight of Dragons from the 80s. If you guys have seen the animated Hobbit movie from the 80s, the same animation studio did an adaptation of a book by an author, and it's called The Flight of Dragons, and it's really wonky. And it's about this kid who kind of gets sucked into a magical world, and he eventually uses science, to science all around. But I love dragons. I'm a big fan of dragons. I have a tattoo of a dragon on my back. I've had it since before that whole phenomenon with that book series. Um, I've identified some cross stitches patterns with dragons that I'll start in the future. Um, so yeah, so movies are all over. I like a lot of movies. The same thing, we're going to get into favorite television show. I actually don't watch a ton of television. I have never been a big television junkie. Television's usually just on the background for me. That's how it's been since I was a kid. Um, I we will watch stuff. My husband can understand quite a bit of Japanese, so he will put anime on, but I have to have the subtitles, and if there's subtitles, then I can't cross stitch, so I can't do one or the other. So we've been watching a lot of Flosstube and documentaries lately on different ancient civilizations. His degree is in classical archaeology, so a lot of Greek and Roman esque stuff he's into right now. So that'll be going on interspersed with Flosstube videos. Um, I would say so. I'll sometimes binge stuff, but like I haven't in a long time, and it like I said, it's just background music. So I'll or background sound pretty much. I do like interior design shows sometimes. I used to be really into that. We like cooking shows. Um, so yeah, all over the place. I watch a lot of YouTube. I'm a big YouTube watcher of all sorts of genres. Um, Favorite book? It's another hard question to answer. I'm looking at my bookshelf. That's closest to me. So one book that I read in high school that I really was impactful was Man Without a Country by Kurt Vonnegut. I actually have a quote of his as another tattoo. It's peculiar travel suggestions are dancing lessons from God. And that's originally from Cat's Cradle, but it's in this book of essays that he wrote that I read in my senior year of high school that was really impactful. I also read um, The Time Traveler's Wife that year, another amazing book, very hard to reread just because it has so many emotions in it. Stephen King's On Writing is also very impactful for me, both as a memoir and as a guide for writing. I write like he has explained writing happens, which is kind of like unearthing a fossil. Like you see a little bit and then you keep chipping away at it. And as a writer, I'm telling the story to myself first before I share it with my readers. So I'm figuring it out usually as I go as well. Especially with like fiction. That's not exactly how I do research writing or presentation writing. It's a little bit different. But yeah, so I do that. And then number 10, what is my favorite music? um, Pretty much a genre you can put on that I will feel very at home in is um, new wave underground 80s music. So Depeche Mode, The Cure, Pet Shop Boys, um, that kind of stuff. Kind of dancey. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, but like, underground stuff. Why is the name escaping me right now? Um, the folks who did Blue Monday. I don't know why. New Order. I'm like, why is this escaping me? So stuff like that is my comfort zone. I actually listen to a crap ton of podcasts. I'm really a podcast listener. A lot of true crime lately. I've been listening to a lot of true crime podcasts. This replaced me listening to a lot of personal finance podcasts, like Dave Ramsey junkie for a little bit. I'm kind of off that right now, but I do appreciate that he's expanding his team of speakers. But I'm listening to Actual Crime Junkie. I listen to I think it's called Appalachian Mysteria, and just a bunch of podcasts. All right, so when last we spoke, I had talked about upcoming projects. I am still waiting on the fabric to come for my Mirabilia, so that's not a start. Like I said, I'll be happy if it comes by the time of my birthday. It could be a nice birthday start for me. If it's not here, and I probably won't start it on a different fabric. If it's not here, my birthday start will be the Carolyn Manning design that I mentioned, which I brought over to show you guys because I never could remember the correct name for this, which makes my husband laugh. I always call it like Desert Storm or Desert Sand or whatever, but it's actually Desert Dawn is the pattern here from her Shooting Star collection. I really like geometrics. I like symmetry. And whenever I see these on Instagram and her tag, they're just always stunning, no matter what kind of version it is. But this one has a lot of my color palette in it. So I haven't kitted that up at all. But if for some reason my Mirabilia fabric hasn't come by my birthday, I might kit that up as a birthday start. So I wanted to show you guys that. And then I had shown you a very poor version on my phone of the design I was working on, which is the Ca Design, which means House of John in Venetian, which is the Ringling Museum in Sarasota. So that was the first design I wanted to start of a historic architecture piece, and I finished it. I finished the chart. And I'm so pleased with it, and it's a free chart, so I'm going to put a link in the description just to the Google Drive link for the PDF. Feel free to download it, feel free to stitch it, feel free to tag me, TallyStitcher Designs or TallyStitcher, whatever, I'll look it up. it would be super cool if I saw other people stitching this up. So look at this, guys. I'm so proud of myself. So um, it is, I think, stitched up. I'm doing it on 16 count Aida. And it's pretty much, it's long and skinny. So it's like 11 inches by like 4. So it's long and skinny. And I mean, I feel I have to stitch it myself to show you guys a model, even if it's a free design. In the PDF, if you download it, you'll see some instructions, but essentially we've got the architectural elevation. This is the back side of the building that you would see if you were on the water looking back at this, which has a big plaza feature, the stairway here, and all of these little motifs. The front looks a little bit different, but this is kind of what I chose to do. The Kadazan sign is on the building somewhere. I actually haven't visited this site yet, but people were asking about it when I thought aloud about doing this piece in my different cross stitch communities. So that's why I kind of, this one had already started. And then up here, so I started noodling out what a border could be if you wanted to put it in a border. I haven't finished it up to make sure the stitches and stuff match up, but this little thing floating out looks like a magic carpet. It's based on the plaza. So if you were looking down at the structure, you would see all of this. So you don't need to stitch that if you don't want to. And you can use it to be inspired, to do a border, to do one line of it here, whatever you want to do. I was just having fun. Anyway, so because I got that done and I wanted to show you guys, after work yesterday, we very quickly ran to kit up stuff. So I wanted to start looking at the colors in person and hope they all work together. And the preview image for this Flosstube will be these colors. But we got the colors. So Joanne had, or no, we went to Michael's. Michael's had everything, which was really nice to grab. I'm trying to make sure that the contrast of the pieces is correct, and if not the contrast, then just the way it stitches up. So did that. I had thought about stitching this up on like a gray. I think that would be very nice with the color palette. Obviously Michael's doesn't have cool stuff like that. The most fancy thing they had was like a tea dyed Lugana, which was way too big and actually wouldn't have probably looked great with this because it would have been too tonally similar. So I've just got white 16 count Aida. And where did I put it? So I started stitching it for you guys so I could show you literally anything today. And so this is in our smallest free hoop, a little 6-inch hoop. I've done two colors. And yeah, I'm starting to stitch it up, guys. Of course, we're never going to get the color right. Anyway, so look, it's my first design. I was really excited because, hey, that looks like a palm tree, and that's what I wanted to look like. So I just started stitching in the bottom corner of my piece of fabric and I'm going out. I didn't find the center. This piece of fabric is plenty big enough for what the design will be, and I'm just boogieing. So I'll keep working on this. That way I can show you guys more progress because I want the model stitched up. That way I can see if I want to swap any colors. And also that way I can show it to people who are like, oh, I might want to stitch that, but I have no idea what it looks like. So excited. And it was really well received in many of my cross stitch groups I'm a part of. Like I said, I made it free because I haven't stitched it. It's my first pattern. It might be terrible when I get it all stitched up. We don't know, but it's free. So I'll put that link down below to the PDF. It'll just be a bit.ly link. That way you don't have the gobbledygook of the Google Drive link. So the next one, of course, I'm addicted now. The one I'm working on next is Bok Tower, which I had mentioned it'd be funny to do the long Kadazan and then the tall Bok Tower on the same piece of fabric. But as I started designing Bok Tower, in order to get the kind of detail, like even on the smallest scale of detail, it's already big. It's already going to be a more traditional, probably bell pull length, which is what my husband had suggested anyway, to do it as a bell pull. So I'm actually I'm probably 80% of the way done with that design. Um, and that one I'm thinking about using variegated threads in order to get the marble effect that that tower has. So it'll be more complicated than this, which I had thought about even doing blended threads with this one, and I was like, no, let's just get it done. And at the scale that it's at, you don't see as much of that marbling that's even here. But for Bok Tower, because it's got, you know, three main colors, but they're so variegated in person, I might either do a blended thread thing or a variegated thread thing, which means I need to get some variegated threads, stitch them up in such a way to see if it gets the effect that I want, and then I'll decide. Because right now it's a lot of confetti to get the depth that I want, and I don't even know if I'd want to do that much confetti, but we'll see. So Clock Tower is next. Other historic sites that I want to do are the Annie Pfeiffer Chapel on Florida Southern College. That's another Frank Lloyd Wright designed piece. It was one of my first architecture projects that I studied, and that was an undergrad. That was before I even got super into historic architecture. But I visited that on a rainy day during spring break, and it was just life-changing. It's just all of Frank Lloyd Wright's spaces. If you've ever been to them, they are like going to church. Even if you're not religious at all, they are a religious experience for the most part. And that's how I felt with any Frank Lloyd Wright building I've been to. I've been to Taliesin West. I've been to all of Florida Southern College. And we have a Frank Lloyd Wright building here in town that I focused my capstone on. And I will probably design that building. It's a residential building. I'll probably do a cross stitch of that eventually. I might look at doing the Tampa Bay Hotel, which is now the Plant Museum, as well as the Ponce de Leon Hotel, which is now Flagler College. So many things can happen because I get excited. All right. So I think that's everything I wanted to show you guys. Let's do the last couple of questions here. What is one word to describe me? Eclectic is what I have like on my Instagram profile. Eclectic fits. I'd like to say artistic, but it's more like crafty and just adaptable, like ready to figure out how to do the thing. So yeah, eclectic is pretty good. It's pretty good. Not the best SAT word, but it's pretty good. Who inspired me to make videos? This is not the first YouTube channel that I've started or the first videos I've recorded. I have a couple videos on a different channel which focuses more on my diabetes management and how that fits into everything. Not as popular a topic as Flosstube, surprisingly. So I've got that. I'm pretty confident speaking to random people. I do presentations for large groups, so I wouldn't say that I inspired myself, but I wasn't afraid to start doing a Flosstube. But once we kind of got into it, my husband and I really started getting into watching Flosstube. I would say Ginger Gerald Stitcher is who really pulled us in. We both like the pieces that he does. We like his vibe. I love his little gardening with Gerald segments he does now, especially because I can't have plants in the house. I can't have house plants because of the cats. I have office plants, like 2.5. I've got 2 that are plants, and then one that is definitely just like a vine with 3 little sad leaves on it. We're much more outdoor gardener type people. So yeah, Ginger Gerald Stitcher, and he commented on my first Flosstube, and that was really exciting. It's kind of like, hearing from a celebrity. Um, and we just kind of let Flosstube roll. So I don't have like super favorites. I follow a lot of folks on Instagram, and we'll pick people out too. If we want to catch up on their updates. Dizzy Stitcher is another one that we'll watch. Um, Sometimes pairs of people, the Sunshine Stitchers, we'll watch them. Um, it's fun to hear them mention different Florida needle shops, needle workshops that we could visit in the future times when it's safe to travel again. So yeah, and then the last question, which kind of popped up on one of the lists of the Know Your Needleworker tag, is what is my favorite food? Um, wow, pasta. I think Alfredo is really good. Um, of course, it's difficult to eat it all the time because I am diabetic. However, the Lord was very kind, and whole wheat pasta does not spike my blood sugar as much as all other wheat products. So as long as I behave and eat like a proper portion, I can get away with whole wheat pasta. Um, but yeah, long term pasta, breadsticks. Oh yeah, so like Olive Garden, comfort food for me. And that's me. That's me knowing it's not really real Italian, and that's me also knowing that I can cook really well. But my mom worked at Olive Garden when I was a kid, so it's a comfort food for me. So yeah, I've been on a stir fry kick lately though because it's just so easy just to get a bag of stir fry veggies, cauliflower rice, and some sort of sauce mixture, whether that's soy sauce, teriyaki, sesame oil. We've got a very substantial spice cabinet. So yeah, I also love wings. I'm a big wing fan. So ranch, not blue cheese, ranch, and also drums, not flats. I'll eat both, but drums are better than flats. So now that I've thrown that controversy into the video, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I hope to show you guys much more progress on the stitch along and the Ka design. That way I can know what it looks like. That way you guys can know what it looks like if you're just finding the video and you're like, do I even want to stitch this? So yeah, so thank you for watching. Thank you for your lovely comments on my previous Flosstube. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please feel free. Right now I'm doing these once a week. It might go to every 2 weeks. I'm not sure yet. Yeah. So thank you again. This is TallyStitcher. And y'all have a good weekend and a good week. All right. And bye.